I graduated nursing school with honors after many years of not having a social life, keeping my nose in the books, and pretty much ignoring everything that didn't pertain to school. My course load was grueling, to say the least, but I was determined to make it. From the time I was old enough to walk, I was constantly caring for people and things around me. My parents always joked that they knew I was going to be a nurse or doctor from the time I took my first fall when learning to walk. I fell to my knees, and instead of crying, I got back up, went over to the laundry bin, grabbed a clean towel, and put it on my leg, applying pressure to the non-existent wound and exclaiming, "All better." Growing up, my best friend had a sister who was gravely ill for many years with leukemia, and we spent a lot of time in the hospital visiting her and trying to cheer her up. I would see the doctors and nurses administering medications and doing routine things all day, and think of how cool it must feel to save lives every day. After graduation, I continued to volunteer at the hospital where I interned. In 2 short months, they offered me a position as a nurse on the pediatric ward, where I dreamed of working all my life. When you first start out, at least in my experience, you often start on nights, which I was fine with. I've always been a night owl. My first few weeks were a blur, 12-hour shifts consisting of half training on the floor and half classes on the computer. I barely slept, and when I did, it was at completely odd times of the day. So, much like during nursing school, I didn't have a social life. My first week on the floor alone changed my life, and not in the ways you would expect. It made me believe in the afterlife, which directly contradicted the science I had been taught my entire life. The first night on my wing alone, I had only 4 patients because I'm a newbie, and they were fairly easy cases. A pair of twin 6-year-olds with a severe case of chicken pox, a 3-year-old with an infection in his big toe that he had stubbed on a rock outside and didn't get cleaned properly, and a 9-year-old admitted for weakness and nausea after her last round of chemo. My youngest 3 were sleeping, but my 9-year-old patient was awake, listening to bedtime stories on an MP3 player. I was hoping the last dose of nausea meds would give her enough relief to sleep a few hours, because she looked exhausted. Sitting at the desk, entering her last meds and vitals in her chart, I was interrupted by a mischievous giggle. Without looking up, I said, "Aren't you supposed to be listening to bedtime stories, little miss?" Finding it odd that she didn't answer, I looked up, but she was gone. I closed her chart, put it away, and went to make sure she made it back to her room and that she didn't need anything. To my surprise, she was fast asleep, earbuds in, playing one of the bedtime stories. That was odd. I clearly need a cup of coffee, I thought to myself, tiptoeing out of the room so as not to wake her. Grabbing a cup of coffee, I was about to sit down to work a few minutes on my last training course when a call light came on. It was my 9-year-old, probably needing more Sprite for her stomach. I grabbed one of the teeny cans of Sprite from the fridge on my way to her room. As I stepped in, I was once again confused and concerned, as she was still fast asleep. I noticed her call light button way over on her bedside table, sitting alone near her empty can of Sprite from earlier. Completely flabbergasted, I stood there staring at the call light for several seconds, before finally making my way over and turning it off. On my way back to the nurse's station, I checked on the twins who were still fast asleep, their bodies full of bandages and calamine lotion, and the 3-year-old boy next door to them, who was still fast asleep also, thankfully. He had more energy than the other 3 kids combined. I worked on my computer training for a quick hour before it was time to check on everyone again. It was around 2 a.m. and I was starting to get tired again, so I brewed a quick cup of coffee, thankful someone had put a Keurig in the break room. I nearly dropped the coffee when I looked down the hallway and saw a little girl somewhere around 6 or 7, wearing a pink hospital gown with pigtails in her hair. I knew she must have escaped from someone else's wing, so I strolled towards her. "Hey there, are you lost, sweetie?" I asked. But she didn't say anything or even acknowledge I was there. "We better get you back to your room. You don't want to worry anyone when they notice you aren't there," I said. Pointing at my 9-year-old patient's room, she said, "This is my room," and proceeded to walk into the room before I could protest. I turned in after her, hoping I could catch her before she woke my patient up, but she was gone. I checked the bathroom, she wasn't in there. I even bent to look under the hospital bed and checked all the closets. I was feeling faint, so I quietly grabbed one of the folding chairs in the closet near the door and sat right there in the hallway outside the patient's door. I couldn't deny it any longer. I had just seen a ghost. The rest of the night got busy. My 9-year-old patient woke up sicker than before, and it took quite a while to get her settled back down. Then the 3-year-old woke up, thinking it was time to be up for the day somewhere around 4 a.m., so I almost forgot about the events of the evening. Almost. The next night, I arrived to work an hour early to work on the computer, and I tactfully brought up the events of the previous night with a coworker that I felt wouldn't have me committed. Her eyes got wide, and she explained that there were many rumors of many nurses seeing the same girl and experiencing odd things. She said there was a young girl many years ago who won the hearts of the entire staff. She was in the hospital off and on for 3 or 4 years before she lost her battle with cancer, right in the room my 9-year-old patient was in. First of all, you are a literal saint for being a pediatric nurse. I can't imagine how hard that is. Second of all, thanks for sharing your paranormal story. It's sad to think of all the little ones who are suffering around the world. It's bad enough being sick as an adult. If you have a paranormal story to share with us for an upcoming video, email it to the address in the description below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.